I've looked everywhere.
He's got to be here somewhere. Look again.
Takes it wide, takes a shot, he scores! Kyle Palmieri, just 2 goals with the Islanders after the trade deadline, scores 8 minutes into the first game of the playoffs.
I found him.
Where?
There.
3.5 to go here in OT. Palmieri with a shot, he scores! Kyle Palmieri, his second today, and the Islanders take game 1.
It's amazing how just somebody can be discovered after having 2 goals the entire season with the team. Welcome back to All Things Rangers, everybody. I am Marc Williams, your host. Thank you for sticking with us. If you were standing by with our delays, a little bit of technical difficulties we were having today. I am joined by the man who will go Super Saiyan on Thanos and at any moment, Mr. John Filkowski.
Well, that's a tall order, but maybe a little Final Flash, maybe a little Kamehameha, but no snaps here.
All right, and I'm also joined by the man who couldn't get enough of the Game 1 victory on Sunday, Mr. Anthony Larocco.
Split in Pittsburgh. We could be happy about that, Isles fans.
Well, it's exactly that. We are going to be going over that split in Pittsburgh first. A little bit odd for a usually Rangers podcast to be leading with the Islanders, but that's what we got to do. So, the story in Game 1, Ilya Sorokin, 39 saves. Him and Kyle Palmieri stealing Game 1 for the Pittsburgh Penguins. A goal and 2 assists by Jean-Gabriel Pageau. Brock Nelson with the go-ahead goal with 3 minutes remaining or so. Roughly. I should have known that. What was it?
It was a little more, maybe like almost 4, but close enough. Yeah. It was...
But 31 seconds later, Kasperi Kapanen had to tie the game to force overtime. So that recaps Game 1, as you saw, Kyle Palmieri, the overtime winning goal. Game 2, the Pittsburgh Penguins get 2 goals in the first period. A little bit of help from Semyon Varlarmov on the first one. He looked like he could be playing second base for the Mets right now. And although he was solid the rest of the way, you don't want to kill him too much after that. Give the guy a break. He hasn't seen a puck in 8 days. So right now, the Islanders are tied with the Pittsburgh Penguins 1-1 in the series. Anthony, you first. What is your impressions of the series so far?
Well, I'll start with Game 1. Game 1, the cliche for playoff hockey is you got to weather the storm, right? When your other team's building, they're going to come out flying. They say as long as you don't give up a goal in the first 10 minutes, and then you play a nice road game after that. And the Islanders did more than that. They scored before that 10-minute mark. And then, they did let Pittsburgh score to tie the game a couple of minutes later, but they weathered that early storm. And that first goal was huge for them, kind of quieted down the Penguins crowd. Pittsburgh then, later on took the lead in that game with a 2-1 victory, but the fact is they did their job in the first period. And let's talk about, Ilya Sorokin. He was awesome that game. Especially in the second period when the Islanders were getting outskated. He held them in the game. And even before that, in the first period, Marc, he made that toe save on Crosby, which if he lets that in, it's 2-1 going into the second. And then the Penguins scored that goal in the second, so it could have been a 3-1 lead. So that was a huge stop to keep it tied at the end of the first. And then in the second period, again, he was outstanding. That Crosby goal, no one did anything wrong in that play. Green played him tough in front of the net. That was just Crosby with a one-handed deflection while he's tied up to redirect the puck. So that beats
unbelievable.
And then after that, the Islanders got to their game in the third period. And it helped them that Tristan Jarry was just weak. Every goal the Islanders have scored on in this series has been on his glove side. So there's the book on him. But Pageau had a huge goal to tie the game. Then Nelson scored, take the lead. It was unfortunate they gave it back how many seconds it was later, but they didn't relent. And then in overtime, they played their typical Islander hockey. They waited for Pittsburgh to make a mistake. They were sound defensively. Pageau took advantage of a Penguins defenseman. I don't know who was in the corner, but he stick check. They lifted his stick, picked his pocket, and then hit Palmieri, and Palmieri beat Jarry. Should he have stopped it? I mean, I think so, but it was still a good shot. Palmieri put that, as Butch Goring says, in the toy department. So, it was a great game one. They had the lead, and going into game two, this is the biggest, I think, critique that you could give is, why did they go to Semyon Varlarmov in game two? Varlarmov, Sorokin was outstanding in game one. As I said, he's one of the reasons why they won that game. Even yesterday morning in practice, he shared, he had his net to himself. And as you guys know, for teams that have 3 goalies, doesn't happen very often, but over the last couple of years, we've seen it with the Rangers and Islanders. When it happens, 2 goalies that are sharing a net, usually it means they're not starting. The starter gets one net all to himself. And that happened with Sorokin. So it looked like he was going to start. And for whatever reason, I would love to know what happened, whether it was, Varlarmov said, hey, I'm feeling good. I really want to go. And he changed his mind, or he was just playing mind games with Pittsburgh. I don't know, but, you saw the rust of Varlarmov from the start. I mean, that first goal, face fells, that was beer league level stuff. Our friend Goldberg would have stopped that. I mean, I don't know what he was thinking. Like, he just totally.
I think Goldberg from the Mighty Ducks would have stopped that.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about either him tied up on the net or high on net.
Are we talking about like current day Sean Weiss? Because current day Sean Weiss might have been able to stop that too.
Again, either would have been there.
It sounded like he didn't even see the puck. It looked like he did see it. He just kind of just whiffed on it. Like he just, I don't know. He just looked shaky in the beginning. Even that second goal, that was more so porous defensive coverage. But even that, he looked a little uncomfortable. He got beat between the the legs on that one. But then after that, he settled down. And so, like Mark, you said, you can't beat him up too much. But then again, this is playoff hockey. You can't afford to be letting in goals like that. And the fact is, he stops that first goal. You're talking a 1-1 game going into overtime, and who knows? Maybe the Islanders could be up 2-0 right now. So that was disappointing. But the fact is, they didn't. They only scored 1 goal. So they got a couple decent chances on Jarry. Nothing terrific. But even the saves that Jarry made, he looked shaky too. There were a couple times where he made a save, he left the rebound there, and the Islanders either fluffed it or missed the net, or so it's like Jarry's not a good goalie. I think we all said it going in. He's the weakest goalie of all the playoff teams. He showed it in game 1, and in game 2 he was a little better, but he didn't beat the Islanders by any stretch of the imagination. The Islanders beat themselves really. So yeah, but 1-1 going back to the Coliseum. As an Islander fan, you can't be disappointed. I think no one knew that this was going to be a sweep. That wasn't really on the table, so you can't be disappointed that we dropped that game last night. But it just could have gone differently had some certain circumstances didn't play out the way it did. But overall, I'm feeling good going into Game 3 tomorrow. It's at the barn. Islanders have a huge advantage there. They're one of the best teams at home this season. They're 21-4-3, which is an outstanding home record. So home cooking. Even the barn at 50% capacity tomorrow is going to be rocking. And the Islanders just got to bring their game to Pittsburgh now. So we'll see what happens starting with Game 3. But those are kind of my overall takes in the first 2 games.
Before I move over to John to get his thoughts real quick, we were talking about the 3 goalie rotation. I can tell you, of course, by being a Ranger fan last year, watching the 3 goalie rotation, it does not work ever. And we'll get into more on that in a minute. But and I'll give my thoughts on the goaltending situation. But Mr. Fikowski, jump on in.
I mean, Anthony summarized it pretty well. You were talking about, Jarry just, and I even said the same thing. I was like, Jarry is just not a good goaltender. He was probably my pick for the worst goaltender of all the teams in the playoffs. I just don't like him. I think Pittsburgh has to play incredible defense in front of him like they played for a better part of last night's game in order to win that series. Honestly, though, this series could be 2-0 for either team. It really could. I mean, if Sorokin doesn't make some of the big stops he made in the earlier parts of Game 1, then you're looking at a Pittsburgh league, and we just know how the Islanders are playing from behind. They're just not the same team. Game 2 showed it. You can't afford to have your goaltender giving up softies when you're a team that plays better with the lead like the Islanders do. They're like a vice grip when they get that lead, especially if it's a 2-goal lead or more. Forget about it at that point. So, Varlarmov giving up the softies that he gave up was just kind of weird to see. I get he's rusty, but you got to be better than that come playoff time. It doesn't matter. If you're stepping in, if you wanted to be that guy, you had to make sure that you were ready and that you were not rusty, and he was rusty. And you know what? I don't
Ironically, by the way, giving up a goal to Brian Rust and being rusty.
Well, I mean, he had a nice giveaway of his own that was kind of just what was going on there. What was he thinking? That's what I'd like to know on his giveaway. But I would really love to know the real reasoning behind Barry Trotz going with Semyon Varlarmov over Ilya Sorokin, because Ilya Sorokin actually looked really good in Game 1. Got to give him a lot of credit. He definitely outperformed the expectations that I had for him. I thought he would be good, but he was a lot closer to great than he was to good. So I would say that he made some incredible saves. I would say that the Islanders in the second half of that game definitely clamped down and started playing their game and got away from Pittsburgh. But in Game 2, they wanted to play track meet with them, and that was the one thing I said that they could not do in this series, get into a track meet or a shootout with them. And they got into it, and they got down in that game early on. So, I mean, like I said, you could be looking at a 2-0 series lead either way. If you're the Islanders, I would say that, with shaky goaltending in the second game, the split isn't terrible. This game is probably the most pivotal game of the series right now. I think whoever wins this game is probably going to win this series in Game 3 tomorrow. So, we're just looking at, I would say also, just a big moment in this series between these two teams. And it's funny, I was talking about Brandon Tanev before the start of the series and how he was probably going to be like an X factor, someone that really to kind of like look out for, to kind of bring some energy and some controversy to the series. And lo and behold, last night he's lunging for that puck. And it's funny because I've seen the complaints about it all over, and I get it. You don't want to see that happen to your goalie. From Tanev's point of view or from the Pittsburgh point of view, if you're that forward, you're going to lunge on that puck. You're going to try to get that puck. You're not trying if you're not looking for that. But it's such a low percentage play that unless you're somebody like Sidney Crosby or Steve Yzerman in his prime, because if you've ever seen that goal, that was on the Barrasso that he scored years ago in the, I would say, the mid-90s. I mean, you're probably not scoring that, but again, I totally see why he did it, but I can see why they would want to pummel his face into the damn ice, because I would too at that point. I'm going to protect my goalie. So, I mean, this is going to get real interesting. I would say for the Islanders, what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to play their game and not take retaliatory penalties, because guys like Crosby can get under your skin. Someone like Tanev is definitely getting under their skin, that's for sure. And a little vice versa, you saw it there in that scrum. So this is going to get nastier as it goes, and I think Game 3 is going to be a very nasty game. So I'm actually really looking forward to it, because with the Tampa-Florida series, and I know we're going to talk more about that a little later on, with that series being as intense and as physical as it is, I mean, if the Islanders and Penguins have a Game 3 like they've had any of their first two games, it's going to be a real fun game to watch as a hockey fan.
As the way that I've been describing it the last few days to people, I watched Game 1 and thought in the first two periods, how the hell are the Islanders going to win this series? I have no idea how that was going to happen. Then I watched the third period and thought, how the hell are the Penguins going to win this series? It was amazing to me just watching those things happen, just as it's going back and forth, and that's when you know it's a little bit more evenly played. The power plays for both of these teams have done absolutely nothing, and for a 65% penalty kill or 35% power play for the Islanders in the regular season versus the Penguins, and a 25% power play for the Penguins versus the Islanders. I mean, none of these power plays, they look like they know what they're doing. And one of them's got Sidney Crosby on it, the other one's got Matt Barzal. How is that even possible? So that's two of the impressions that I have already right there. Tristan Jarry, that goal Bailey had. I never saw a goalie try to make a glove save with his elbow. Really? Do you hate your glove that much? Like, how is this guy? I'm almost want to bring back up the numbers. I think he's got 25 wins on the season. I have 25 wins when all you got to do is shoot at the glove. Shoots it down. He doesn't snap it up. He doesn't even hold it up there like a blocker, the way like Henrik Lundqvist would. Like, how does this guy wins? I'm really trying to figure this one out.
He might be the worst glove hand in the NHL right now.
Oh my God! And then like the Palmieri thing. Give credit for Palmieri for a good shot on that first goal, but he's sort of doing an impression of early 2010s Marc-Andre Fleury. Hey, nice try, but I dodged your shot again. But it's sort of like I just don't understand how this is happening with Pittsburgh. And I mean, I give him all the credit in the world for coming back. He looked better last night, if that makes any sense. And Pittsburgh kept the Islanders to the outside. They're going to have to do that a lot more because any puck can go in on this guy. So that's what the Islanders have learned. Because that's also what I'm about to actually ask you guys right now. I'll start with you, Anthony. What have we learned from the series?
Yeah, hold on. Yeah.
Okay. John, what have we learned from the series?
I mean, we learned that Jarry is worse than I actually thought he was. I mean, you can say that he played better in Game 2, but, I mean, how much better did he actually play, or was it the Pittsburgh defense playing better in front of him, which I think they did. I think the Pittsburgh Penguins can actually kind of hang with the Islanders and play that style if they have to. Would they prefer not to play that? Of course. But, I mean, we've also learned that the Islanders need to play with the lead. I think if they get down by 1 or 2 goals in a later point in the game, I don't think they have the capability to win a game from behind at that point. So I would actually say that they need to be in the lead at all points in the series. I know it sounds so obvious, like John Madden-ish, but like they really are that different of a team without the lead. So I would say, if anything, the Islanders need to be in front. They need to be in control. They need to start better too. I don't like the starts that they've had in these first couple of games. Like, I know that they got the lead in Game 1, but that shot, I'm sorry, it was a good shot, but that shouldn't have gone in. That was just Jarry being Jarry at that point. So I don't want to discredit Kyle Palmieri, but like I said, it was a good shot, but I think a better goaltender stops that. So
back to you, Anthony. What have we learned so far in this series?
I think we learned that, kind of what we said when we were previewing the series. The Islanders aren't known to be a real high-scoring team, but they do have a lot of depth, like a lot of guys that can score, over the course of an 82-game season, score 20 goals, So, like Palmieri, Pajot, Walsh from line was awesome in Game 1. Nelson scored. While Beuvillier didn't score in Game 1, he was all over the place, had a couple of really good opportunities.
And Game 2.
Yeah, and Game 2. And their fourth line was their fourth line. They played hard, they crashed and banged. So really, I think it kind of learned that the Islanders can score goals on these Penguins teams. What they need to do now is Barzal and Eberle need to show up, because those are the two guys that haven't brought anything to the table yet. And to win the series, it's nice that, Pajot and Palmieri are going, and Beuvillier and Nelson are going, that with Bailey. But Barzal and Eberle need to make their presence known starting tomorrow. Because that just makes them a really dangerous team. If Barzal and Eberle get going, and now that they have contributions from their top 3 big lines, that's going to go a long way. And the other thing is that as far as as Pittsburgh goes, is that the Penguins can still hurt you without Crosby being very prolific. I mean, I don't know if he had a point last night. But if he didn't, so far he just has that one goal. But that means they're just winning with guys like Brian Rust scoring and Freddie Gaudreau scored the other day. So the Islanders just need to also not just key on Crosby. They need to play hard on all the other Penguins lines. And the last thing I had, I know Filk had mentioned earlier, but he's really wants to know what the reason was for starting Varlarmov. They asked him in the media after the game, and he said, well, Varlarmov has been our number one all year, which is true. Then he referenced that he had 7 shutouts and said that he's been their team MVP. So being that he was healthy, it was an easy decision. And I disagree with Trotz there a little bit. The playoffs is a different game. Momentum's big in the playoffs. When you have a guy like Ilya Sorokin that played really, really well and beat a team, why not go back to him in game 2? Worst thing that happens is you lose, and it's 1-1, which is where we are right now, and then you can go back to Varlarmov. Now, it makes it so much harder to go back to Sorokin, because now if he pulls the plug on Varlarmov, it's gonna be like, try to pull the plug on his number one. What's going on here, and it's more of like controversy. So I think the easier thing would have been to do is give Varlarmov another day of rest and practice, and start Sorokin. And I just don't know why. Well, I get why he said why, but I just don't understand it, and I don't agree with it. I think Sorokin should have been the guy for sure. And now, I doubt he goes back in. Unless Varlarmov gets hurt or really sucks, I think he's going to stick with Varlarmov. So we'll have to see what happens, though.
Well, I mean, I've learned that it's for everything to happen in this series, you need to make sure you limit your opponents to the outside. Pittsburgh's been getting into the inside and getting more shots. I think they've had 40 shots in both of these games so far. And I also think that, Pittsburgh's been dominating in the zone time, but not dominating as far as like turning that zone time into quality chances. The Islanders have been kind of not possessing it as much. I think they need to work the Pittsburgh defense down low and play really more Islanders hockey, grind it out. That's the way they've been doing it, and that's the way it's been working so far. What out of this series has surprised you guys so far? John, I'm going to start with you again.
Wow. I would say it's been Pittsburgh's ability to try to play more of an Islanders type game. I mean, these really haven't been too much of a run and gun type game, and that's what they want. They want that. Also, I would say Pittsburgh's depth. I mean, Jeff Carter has actually been really good. I know that he hasn't put up a lot of points so far, but Jeff Carter's line has been really good for them. So Pittsburgh's depth, their defense, minus a couple of moments, has actually been pretty good. Cody Ceci actually made 2 or 3 pretty good plays last night, and I've referred to Cody Ceci in the past as one of the worst defenders in the NHL. Because I mean, the eye test and the advanced stats would tell you that he is, but I mean, he's made a couple of really good plays in this series so far, mostly in Game 2. So I was kind of surprised by that as well. So, I mean, I would say the depth pieces so far, really, and then Pittsburgh not trying to turn it into a complete all-out slugfest offensively, because that's what they would be looking for, but they haven't really tried to force the issue there, and they've still hung in these games, and it's been really close. So those would be my answers.
Anthony?
I'm going to go with the play of Kyle Palmieri. I know when we did the preview, I used him as my most
line player.
Yeah, because it's really hard to just raise your game just on a switch, but that's what it seemed like he's done in these 2 playoff games. He's played a heavy game. He's played physical. He's been tenacious on the forecheck. in the corners, and he's driving the net. He's scoring goals. He looks like a different player. So I don't know if he's big game moments. He's just stepping up. Maybe with missing the playoffs with the Devils for so many years, he's just amped up to play in the playoffs. But he looks night and day better than he did during the regular season. So he keeps playing like this. It's going to be really great for the Islanders. So, but yeah, I would say how effective he's been. I know he's a good player. I knew that he had the possibility of doing good things in the playoffs. But the fact that he just kind of like I said, turned the switch immediately has just surprised me a lot, and I'm here for it. It's great news for the Islanders.
My first joke I'm going to say is that I didn't know Jocelyn Tebow was still playing in the league. Thank you, Tristan Jarry. It's just, I guess what's kind of surprising me is Pittsburgh's depth. I know the Islanders had depth, and I know that. Also, by the way, 2 goals on Pullock and Pelech last night, and that's an achievement in its own. So it's, I'd have to say Pittsburgh's depth is kind of surprising, but they really need Evgeny Malkin to get back in this series, because it's different having Evgeny Malkin between Zucker and I don't know if it's Ruedel who he's been playing with, or maybe even that's where Freddie Gaudreau moves to. He slots to the right wing. It's different having him centering those guys than Freddie Gaudreau doing it. I understand he's got a goal in the series, but sometimes, I'm going to get to my player that needs to step up, most disappointing player, in a minute. But actually, you know what? I'll start it right now. What's disappointing you so far? And I got to say, Chris Letang, this guy's got a Norris Trophy. He had a 4-on-2 last night and completely missed the pass to Jason Zucker, who was sitting there going, come on, give me a hand. I haven't been doing anything all series. So there's that. Anthony, you ready for this? Do you know the last time Chris Letang registered a point in the NHL playoffs? Game 1, 2019, in the 4-game sweep to the Islanders. He had the assist on the goal. I think it was the Kessel goal that tied the game before it went to overtime. Are you kidding?
That's crazy.
He's got a Norris Trophy.
Yeah.
You might want to, yeah, okay, everybody, yeah. Well, Mark, he's not the player he once was. Okay, can you be at least 10% of that player anymore? He's still the anchor of their defense. So, all right, let's reverse this around. Anthony, who's been disappointed? What's been disappointing you most right now?
Well, I referenced it before. Barzal and Eberle need to be better. They haven't generated much. Barzal looked a little better in last night. In the third period, he was hounding pucks a little bit more, caused a couple of turnovers, but he needs to be more prolific. He needs to get more chances, create more chances. I understand being on the road that he was facing the Dumoulin-Letang pair, so maybe now that he's at home, Trotz will get him away for those two. So maybe that will help. But, if you remember in 2019, Eberle, in particular, killed Pittsburgh, and Barzal was playing with him and then too. So the two of them need to get going. It's like I said, if they get going along with the good play they're getting from their other lines, it's going to be really difficult for Pittsburgh to handle, especially with the way they just come at you in waves. So, yeah, Barzal needs to get to his game. He needs his skating, his edge work to it.
And I think we had Anthony freeze for a second. So, John, jump right in.
It's funny because I was going to say Matt.
See him and put them on the brink. So,
we got Anthony back
for me.
Okay. So it was Eberle and Barzal. You got it.
Yeah. I was going to say Barzal too, but if anything for me, it's got to be Tristan Jarry, who's. I know that my expectations of him were low, but if you want to win a playoff series, you got to be better than what he's done so far. To me, he really hasn't been good. He was better in Game 2 than he was in Game 1. I would say he's probably been the most disappointing player in the series so far for either team. And Semyon Varlarmov would have been right there with him. But, I mean, the thing that's disappointing me most for the Islanders so far is probably Barry Trotz, because I really don't get how you went away from Sorokin. And I know I don't like questioning a guy that's going to be a Hall of Fame coach. It's not David Quinn where I can be like, well, what are you doing not playing Lafreniere on your power play when your power play is struggling and you have Colin Blackwell there because of his unsustainable 20-plus shooting percentage? You know, this is not that type of situation. This is a Hall of Fame bound coach, going to be one of the better coaches of all time, probably a top 5 to 10 at least. So I don't like questioning him, but I have to wonder why. I really want to know more than the lip service that was given, because it just doesn't make sense to me. So I'm going to say for Pittsburgh, it's going to be Jari. For the Islanders, Trotz.
More, by the way, talk on Sorokin in a little bit. So, that didn't sound good. I don't know where that was. Whose house that was?
It's good.
Yeah, all we needed was the scream that they put in all the Star Wars movies. I forgot the name of that sound effect. Ah! All right, guys. And last question before we close out the Islanders segment. Game 3. Who needs to step up? And Anthony.
Well, I mean, I said Barzal, but just to steer away from that, I would say that, you know, the bottom pairing for the Islanders, and maybe need to step up a little bit. I mean, Mayfield had a good game 2. Game 1, he wasn't so good. Him and Leddy. Leddy had that really bad giveaway that led to the Crosby goal. He just kind of passed it low to high and passed it to the wrong team when he passed it high. And then they scored right after that. So, you know, they just need to be better with the puck, smarter decisions. You know, I think, I know we mentioned Pelech and Pullock allowed a goal the other day, but Pullock had he whipped on the puck. He went right to Russ. But then again, Varlarmov should have stopped it. So we wouldn't ever be talking about that if Varlarmov just did his job. But still, they're going to give you a good effort every time they're out there. But Leddy Mayfield pair need to step up, give them some relief when they can't be out there against Crosby, even though they're going to be at home, so it shouldn't happen much. But it will be a relief for them if they can get a little breather sometimes from playing away from him. But yeah, they just need to be smarter, make smarter puck decisions, and then, you know, just play their game, because Leddy, when he's going, he's fast, he moves the puck really well. You know, that helps the Islanders a lot. So they just need to get going.
John.
I mean, I'm going to say for Pittsburgh, probably Jason Zucker. He needs to be something other than invisible. I don't think I've really seen him do much in this series at all. So he's got to be better. For the Islanders, I'm going to say Barry Trotz, because he's going to have to address this goaltending issue, and he's going to have to get it figured out, and get it figured out real quick. Because if this lingers, then that could be the downfall for them. And remember, I picked Islanders in 6, and I didn't think that there would be a goaltending controversy or anything like that. So Barry Trotz has got to make sure that this team is ready for Game 3. They come out absolutely flying, and they got to get on Pittsburgh early. They got to get an early 1 or 2 goal lead, I would say, by the end of the first period, and really start to clamp down and play their game. But that goaltending issue has to be addressed first and foremost. So they try.
One small problem about having 2 brilliant co-hosts, especially when you delegate out duties such as Anthony's handling the Islanders, I'm handling Pittsburgh, and John gets to name both. When the motherfucker ends up naming my guy, it was supposed to be Jason Zucker as well. Jason Zucker was completely invisible, so now I got to come up with a new name, and my new name is Evgeny Malkin. I don't know what's going on with you. Are you hurt? Are you injured? Are you just aching a little bit? You don't want to ever pick on a guy that can't get into the lineup, but you're a Stanley Cup champion. You've been through a lot of this before. If it's a problem with injury, don't risk the rest of your life. if you're just a little bit hurt, get back on. And I think, and again, I think they're erring on the side of caution with Malkin, so that's probably it. And of course, I'm saying all this on the fly. Who knows? I'm not his body, so I don't know how he feels. We also want to know what you guys think. We've had some of the comments already. One of them I'll be sharing again during the next segment on the Rangers. But we want to know who needs to step up for the Islanders? Who's surprising you? What have you learned from this series besides Kristen Jarry doesn't have a left hand? Literally, I mean, is there even a left hand there? Anyway,
hole in the glove.
And don't forget, of course, to like, share, and subscribe. And yes, by the way, every time I ever missed the ball playing baseball, or even when my brief time being a goalie when I was a kid, you always blame the glove first. It's just how it works. All right. To our second topic of the day, guys, the tenure of Jeff Gorton ended 2 weeks ago during our broadcast. I still love sharing that video, especially me looking down going, oh, wait, what? and also how quickly we eliminated that question of the Minnesota Wild being in trouble for Vegas. So just to talk about the Jeff Gorton era and how that went, sure, you can look at a lot of things that are positives. He acquired Mika Zibabanejad. He got Artemi Panarin and Adam Fox. He made the roster younger. Got them out of some cap hell. But more positives, the Rick Nash trade, which netted Ryan Lindgren, Ryan Strome, and Keandre Miller. And then you got some negatives. The Ryan McDonough trade looks to be a total fail. Nils Lundqvist pending. Drafting Elias Anderson over Marnie Nikish. Wait, I said it wrong. Nakish. Natchez. See, by the way, do you remember Stanislav Neskash, who was spelled N?
He was really terrible with the Rangers.
Yeah, he was good with Ottawa. And then some moves that are kind of debatable. You got the Jacob Trouba trade, the Brady Shea extension, FIlip Chytil, and the entire Kevin Shattenkirk tenure. But John, I'm going to start with you. What do you really think when you're thinking back to Jeff Gorton? Now, again, I think we're all on the segment. We wouldn't have fired him, right?
I don't know. I mean, I've had people on social media tell me that his job was on the.
Did you like that video? Of course you did. So why not check out some more of our content? You can check the playlist right here or right here.
Your ideas are intriguing to me, and I wish to subscribe to your newsletter.